what are the potential implications for the BBC in this story?
Well, first of all, let me say that I do share some of Michael Crick's reservations, which were expressed earlier. Yes, you did make a great point at the end of saying these were only allegations, but you had actually let slip that you thought him a pervert. No, we don't know that. We don't know that. At the moment, it's got to be innocent until proved guilty. And that puts the BBC in a very difficult position. And I don't understand why it's taken them all this time to call in the police, quite honestly, because that seems to me they could have handed the responsibility over to the law enforcement agency fairly early on. Don't understand why the 7-week gap. Now, there may be reasons for it. There may be that there are things they want to check. It is an extraordinary story. I don't know why they've done this, but if what then happens is that this man is named, and I would expect that also to happen in fairly short order now, that when the man is named, if what then happens is that it is shown that there was a cause for concern and that the allegations stand up, then I think the Beeb is in big trouble simply because it took so long. If, on the other hand, the allegations don't stand up, the Beeb will be able to say, well, there you are. You know, we had our doubts all along. So I think it really depends on the outcome. But the thing with the Jimmy Savile case was too many of them knew what was going on. They knew what was going on. With the Martin Bashir case, exactly the same thing. They knew that there were allegations of forged bank statements. I mean, dear heaven, how much more serious can you get? They knew that, and yet they did nothing. And I think the same thing goes with this story of this individual partying with BBC bosses, if indeed that happened. I can understand why they hadn't named him and they were carrying on investigating, but you'd think that in basic self-preservation alone, the BBC would have said, don't come to this party, keep a low profile. Apparently they didn't.
Anne, absolutely fair what you've had to say about my take at 10. It's certainly all about opinions. That's what this show represents. And you're absolutely right. You are innocent until proven guilty. All of this could disappear like a puff of smoke, but it may not. To defend the BBC, they have said they first became aware of a complaint in May, but new allegations were put to them on Thursday. Either way, do you think the government should have another look at the culture of the nation's state broadcaster into how they handle complaints of this nature going forward?
I'm not sure the government has much of a reputation for handling complaints itself, quite honestly. So I'm not sure, that would carry too much credibility. Certainly they need to look at the funding model for the BBC. I've no doubt about that. Certainly they need to keep a beady eye on impartiality. I think Tim Davies is probably doing his best on that one, but it's not wholly achieved. And there are things that the government needs to do, but whether it needs to concern itself in the handling of complaints, unless there is in that handling, as I think there probably was in the Jimmy Savile case, an implication of inappropriate behaviour on the part of the BBC in as much as it knew but did nothing. That I think they can be legitimately concerned about, but not how complaints are handled. They've no reputation themselves for doing that.
Indeed so. And if this story does blow up and plays out very badly for the alleged individual and the organisation, could it threaten the future of the licence fee? Could it essentially remove and dilute the credibility of this annual tax we've all got to pay? Do you think people will say, look, the BBC, look how some of their stars behave, why should I pay this?
Oh, I think, there is an incremental effect here, and every time something like this happens, and something much less serious than this happens, it makes people all the more resentful of the BBC licence fee and of the way the BBC carries on. Nobody now thinks of it, as an institution of total impartiality and trustworthiness and all the things that it used to be once. And nobody thinks of it like that anymore. And then there is, of course, the straw that breaks the camel's back. This may be it, or there may be one lurking in the future, but the time will come when there'll just be a mass rebellion and people will say, enough. And then whoever's in government at the time has got to deal with that.